In my last video, I introduced myself professionally to you guys, but now I wanted to introduce myself to you personally. Most of us in this space of alternative healthcare, functional nutrition, we get into what we're doing for a reason, and I want to share that with you today. So, like I said, I grew up in a household where my mother was very focused on nutrition. I do joke with my mom. Some would say she has an eating disorder. She's got type 1 diabetes, and she is very careful about what she puts into her body. Because she does that, she has been able to outlive most of her contemporary diabetics. She has zero health problems besides her diabetes. She's able to keep her hemoglobin A1C under control, her insulin and her blood glucose under control, and her doctors say that she is healthier than most of their patients without type 1 diabetes. My mom is a brittle diabetic, which means that her blood sugars can rise and fall really at precipitous amounts, without a lot of warning. So growing up, it was kind of scary. She would have reactions. My dad worked out of town, so it was just the three of us girls, and my mom, a reaction we called it, is basically where my mom would either have a seizure or go into a coma because her blood sugar was so high or so low. She, like I said, was very careful about what she put into her body. She mostly just eats vegetables. So my mom and I have a lot of interesting debates back and forth because I'm big on protein for, hormone homeostasis, and my mom is huge on vegetables. So I know that there is a place for vegetables, and I definitely see that my mom, has utilized those to the best of her ability to keep her health really stable. She is very, very thin, and she does a lot of walking. So I remember growing up, my mom would just walk laps around our backyard and walk laps around our house. So sometimes if I find myself, reading my research and walking laps around my house, my husband will have to stop me and say, "You're acting like your mom. Don't do that." So I stop and try to sit down. Anyway, so that's part and parcel of why I was really interested in nutrition and biochemistry and the body from a very young age. I attended the University of California at Davis for 1 year because I was dating the love of my life, my husband, Bo. We met while I was 17 working at Morgan Stanley Dean Witter, and I think we imprinted on each other. So it was really hard for me to be away for that year at college. I just missed him a lot. Anyways, I ended up coming back home and we got engaged. I finished out school at the California State University, Bakersfield, and was able to construct my own major and minor in psychology and nutrition. It's always been my passion to help people, especially women. I, at one point, was looking into getting a biblical counseling degree. I am a Christian. I am a follower of Christ, and I really wanted to use the Bible and scripture to be able to help people going through a really difficult time because our marriage had gone through a difficult time at that time in my life. I remember I had my intake paperwork, my application for my master's program in biblical counseling, and I got a phone call that had told me that I had just been accepted to work for Abbott Laboratories as a pharmaceutical sales rep. So instead of spending more money on education, I decided it was time for me to make money as a pharmaceutical sales rep. And those of you who are familiar with that job know that it is pretty good money. And they train you very well. So that, again, piqued some of my interest in the human body. I was in Chicago for 3.5 months with really intensive training on human anatomy and physiology. We had to know as pharmaceutical sales reps exactly the mechanism of action of how the drugs worked on the body, drug-to-drug interactions, different, pre-existing conditions that our doctors' patients would have that might pose a problem for those on our medication. I got to sell a antibiotic for children and an antibiotic for adults, a heart drug, and a cholesterol drug. So those were really interesting things to get trained on, those different pathways in the body and how drugs acted on those pathways. So just another step in my journey of being really fascinated with the body. Going back to my college degree, just being able to integrate nutrition with psychology was really powerful and very interesting for me. Of course, I was the only one doing, that major and minor because I constructed it myself, but I got to take classes on nursing and biochemistry and anatomy and physiology, kinesiology, very interesting stuff. And then coupled with, my main major, which was psychology, I was able to kind of deep dive into what makes humans tick, and that is fascinating for me. So it's something I continue to use in my practice. I had a client just this week who said, "You didn't know you signed up to be a life coach, did you?" And I said, "Actually, I did," and I was pretty jazzed about it. It's one of the things I love to do, again, is going a deep dive into the whys behind we do what we do, why we do what we do, and why we act how we act, why we think how we think. Those are important things when you're sick, especially chronically ill. It's not just food or environmental circumstances that got you there. In fact, many times, almost 100% of the time, there will be some inciting incident that happened before a woman has developed her chronic autoimmune disorder. For instance, a car accident, the death of a loved one, Epstein-Barr is huge, mold toxicity, a divorce, something like that. A big deal in someone's life will generally lead to, that activation of autoimmune disease or other chronic disease. So let's see, we're graduating college, right? Finished training at Abbott. I was able to work for Abbott Laboratories for a number of years. Great place to work. I loved my team. And then I decided I wanted to have babies. So my husband said, "Why don't you work for a little bit, pay back your college tuition, and then we'll have some babies." So we did. We ended up having 4. We had 4 children. You can see them there. They're my babies. I've got 3 boys and a girl, and I freaking love being a mom. If you know me, probably know that I am pretty type A. If I decide I'm going to do something, I want to be the best at it. I want to do a really freaking good job. And so I poured all of my energy into being the best mom that I could be. Trying to be the best mom you can be, you learn that pride will get you nowhere. So there is a lot of humility that goes on with being a mother. My friend calls children the great humbleizers, and it is true. So try to be the best mom you can be. You'll pretty much fail every single day, but there is a lot of grace involved. There's a lot of growth involved, and I love those years at home with my children. We were able to homeschool them for 4 years, which was pretty fun. Also, a lot of growth involved there. You don't even know how deep your sin runs until you have to be around your children 24 hours a day, responsible for their life, their welfare, their clothes, their dishes, and now their spiritual development and their schooling. It's a lot of pressure. And so my health continued, to deteriorate at that time. When I had my 3rd baby was when probably my health was at its worst. He was induced early, 8 days early, and I'm firmly convinced now that even though I was ready for him to come out, he was not ready to come out. So he ended up having some health problems, and I ended up pretty much tanking in health after I had him. I had severe insomnia. I couldn't sleep for almost 9 months, 2 to 3 hours a night, maybe. My hormones were completely out of whack. I had panic attacks and anxiety. It was a very stressful time in my life and in my marriage. I was depressed, and I just didn't know what to do. I did go to many doctors, 3 doctors. That's maybe not many. I went to a handful of doctors, including a naturopathic doctor, and asked for help, and no one thought to check my hormone levels. They gave me an antidepressant and a sleeping pill. I decided to take neither one of those. I just wanted to feel better, and I wanted to know why I was feeling like this. Eventually, I was at Bible study one day, and this older lady said to me, "When you're tired enough, dear, you'll sleep." And I thought, oh, brother. But you know what? That night I went home and I slept. I don't know what happened. Like I said, it had been 9 months. Maybe my hormones were just ready to reset themselves. Maybe it was God's sweet mercy to me. But ever since then, I have slept like a rock. And I started to make changes, a couple of years later that really helped cement my sleep, because I believe that's of primary importance. So After my oldest son decided that he wanted to go back to what we call regular school a couple of years ago, I was able to go back to school myself and obtain my certificate in Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. So during that whole time, though, where I'm at home with babies, I was reading everything I could get my hands on regarding nutrition, diet, exercise, whatever I could understand, biologically or physiologically. I try to push myself with journal articles and books written for professionals. But I really love that I got to come to FDN and just get really good hands-on training. You get to walk through the program with a mentor. You're running all of the tests on yourself and learning a lot in the process. So I kind of bubble over with those kind of things and love to tell everyone about it. So I was able to start attracting clients almost immediately, and I've been doing it now for about a year and a half. It's not that long, but I love it, and I'm getting great results with my clients because I really make sure that they're ready to take that leap. It's different when you have to care for yourself, right? You're making changes with your diet and your exercise, your stress, your sleep. You're doing things differently from everyone around you, right? Everyone around you is drinking wine and eating cheesecake, and you are drinking your, lemon water and making sure you hit your 30 grams of protein. That's different, and it's hard for a lot of women. So that is kind of my personal development and why I'm here, just able to, after my babies, gain weight and then lose 40 pounds pretty easily almost every single time, reduce anxiety and depression. I still struggle a little bit with psoriasis, which is an autoimmune condition. My mom having diabetes, it's very usual for a woman to have some sort of autoimmune disorder if it comes from her mother. Thanks a lot, Mom. But I manage that really well through diet and through supplements and through rest. Autoimmune conditions don't ever go away completely, but you can greatly reduce the symptoms of what you're dealing with. So that might be a little bit of a ramble, and I'm sure I'll share more with you eventually about me personally, but that's essentially who I am and why I'm here. I felt like I wanted to get to the root of my problems myself, and now my passion is for helping other people do that as well. So thanks for joining me today, and I hope to see you soon.